Well, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Today's date is June 8th, 2016. It's approximately 4 p.m. This is the Urban Forestry Advisory Board meeting. We'd like to do roll call.
I'm going to do that today. Parsley?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Guy? Lipinski? Shepherd? And Thomas?
Okay. There's one more.
And Madison.
Oh,
here. Okay, I just...
Yeah, you just...
This is Chanel Pennington, by the way. She's the administrator for Parks and Rec and Urban Forestry.
Okay. Yeah, I saw you over at the office.
Yeah.
I saw you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Before you start with the agenda, I'd like to ask you to call a moment of silence for Tyrone Rogers, who was helpful in setting up our video and recording some of us, who passed away Monday night.
Oh, no. Sure.
He worked for the City and Media Services.
What happened?
And he recorded this meeting from over at the station for the last...
The little guy who was here? What happened?
He had suffered cardiac arrest during the quorum court courts meeting, jail law enforcement and courts meeting, while he was filming. And apparently the sheriff and a deputy were immediately with him, and they called 911.
Oh, sorry to hear that. He was very healthy. He was a nice little guy. From what I remember, I didn't know him very well.
It's not the one that's usually here. He's from the media. It's another gentleman.
He's been here sometimes, but he was working on the PowerPoints for us.
Not very old either, huh? He's 50s.
Okay.
53. He had two children, 14 and 20.
Okay, we can resume our agenda. Next on the items is approval of the May 11th, 2016 minutes for our meeting. Do I have a motion?
Approval of the latest version from John.
Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We approve the minutes for May 11th, 2016. Item 3 is our native or invasive plant presentation. Today it will be given by Malcolm Lavoie, and it seems to be on the tulip tree.
Yes, it's the tulip tree.
Great.
Okay, good. It's a nice flower.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
A little sweet, anyway. Yeah, the tulip tree. Liriodendron tulipifera. It's in the magnolia family, as far as unless they've changed it recently, which they seem to do, but I think it's still in the magnolia family. There's another one in China, Liriodendron chinense, I think, but these are the only two that are still around. This is one of the biggest trees, in fact, possibly the biggest tree in the eastern United States, the eastern hardwood, anyway, reaching up to occasionally 150 feet or more. And you can see its range. It's got a pretty big range, but in Arkansas it's mainly on Crowley's Ridge and a couple other little spots. I see one there next to the river and in southeast Arkansas, but it's mainly on Crowley's Ridge that it occurs naturally. It does grow around here quite well if they're planted. There's one across from the public library in the grounds of the KUAF, a small one. It's a diameter about that big, but it's already pretty tall. And yeah, they grow well if they get the right conditions. Let's see, it's more often 60 to 90 feet. Has roots that spread deeply and widely. It's a fast grower, increases in height a couple of feet a year, and likes full sun. Does well in acidic loamy, moist, sandy, and well-drained and clay soils. It can handle drought, doesn't really like dry soils very much. It can handle a drought in humid regions. All right, blooms in May and June, generally speaking. Flowers about an inch and a half to 2 inches. They have greenish yellow petals with orange at the base, alternate leaves about 3 to 6 inches long, aromatic stems, produces flowers after about 15 years of growth. Its fruit is a 4 to 9 centimeter cone of samaras. It's a pyramid shape, and its trunk is commonly devoid of branches for several feet. And our last Firewise gal recommended in one of her brochures as an ornamental because, she didn't say so, but I'm pretty sure it's because it has that bowl free of limbs for many feet, several feet, and so it doesn't provide a ladder for fire to go up to your house or to other trees. All right. Yeah, it's also fire resistant as when it gets old, when the old bark is quite thick and furrowed, and it's resistant to fire, but young seedlings and saplings are easily damaged by fire. All right, let's see here.
Pretty flower.
Okay, yeah, let's see. It is insect pollinated. It's like mainly by flies, beetles. It's honeybees. It produces good nectar for honeybees and bumblebees. Also to ruby-throated hummingbirds. Good source of pollen and spring nectar for bees. The leaves are eaten by various Lepidoptera, such as the eastern tiger swallowtail.
Hmm.
Okay, it's propagated by seed or grafting. The wood is fine-grained, stable, commonly used for cabinet making and furniture, and recently for even for framing, as other woods are getting scarcer. They're using it for veneer and plywood making. So it's a valuable forest trees for pulpwood also. So they're planting it more and more as to regenerate forest, fast grower, and has several commercial uses. Okay, it's not very many pests or diseases bother it. Let's see, we've got the yellow poplar weevil and a couple of cankers. Also aphids and scale insects, and in the city it's not really that bad for the tree, but the sooty mold and the dew, like the honeydew that comes down, can get on your car and that sort of thing. Say considered resistant to the gypsy moth. It is prone to ice and wind damage in exposed situations. So that's something to think about, and it's also such a big tree that you want to have quite a bit of space to plant it if you're going to plant it as a shade tree, because it does get big, although it's not necessarily so wide, but pretty tall. Yes, generally not recommended for a street tree, but good for shade and for large landscape plantings. Yeah, and information about it can be had at the nativetreesociety.org, that and other native trees. Yeah, so that's about it. I think most people are familiar with it, but
I think it's the state tree of Kentucky too.
yeah, that's right, and it's planted a lot of places.
Can we see the map again of the region that it stretches to?
Pardon me?
Can we see the map again
Yeah.
of the destroying zone? Yeah.
It has such an unusual leaf shape.
Yes, almost like a maple.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So it's
So
all
that's
along the
the-
East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And a really beautiful established one on Isla, behind the house in the backyard. The house that's got a big 3-car garage, there's a, probably a 60-foot one that blooms, it's beautiful.
And there's another one across from Lowe's out by the mall, across the street, whatever that street is that runs into the mall.
Zion?
Yeah, is it Zion? Yeah, across Zion, and whatever those facilities are, like medical facilities or something,
Mhm.
that's one-story buildings. There's a really beautiful one in the corner lot.
Uh-huh. There are also a couple of specimens in the Harvest parking lot, you know, the drive-through, like where you go in to get your, or put the tubes, you know. They're pretty old trees, they're big, you know, kind of gnarly looking. They're not the beautiful pyramid shape, you know, they're kind of gnarly, but they're big. And, you know, they'll obviously grow here since they've been here for many years, those ones.
I like the leaves too, how the leaves are like that matte finish feeling.
Yeah, and
Pretty.
they mentioned that both the flowers and the leaves are maybe why they came up with the tulip tree name, because they both
Okay.
kind of look like a tulip.
And you said it's a host plant, or what caterpillars?
Well, let's see, they talked about the eastern tiger swallowtail, and several other Lepidoptera, but I'm not sure which types, but I know the gypsy moth is supposed to be resistant to that.
I'm interested in the smell of the stem.
Yeah, right, aromatic stems too, that's
Yeah.
right.
I've never noticed that.
No, I haven't either, actually, but I'll have to smell one next time.
Yeah.
Do you have to
Get
touch
the
it
chance.
to smell it, or does it like
I don't
honeysuckle
know.
you
I bet
get
it's
the
a
wind?
scratch and sniff kind
Uh-huh.
of situation.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's very
thank
good. Okay, next item. Item 4, the annual Sustainable Landscape Awards, the competition. What do we have to report about that?
We have a total of 16 entries, 2 restaurants, 4 civic, 10 residential. We have 3 confirmed judges now.
Yay!
We have the judging situation taken care of. We have Judy Brittenham, Amy Jones, and Alan Osner.
Oh, good.
Great.
Does everybody know those 3 people?
Osner.
Amy, but.
Amy,
Yeah.
yeah, she was on UFAB.
Right.
Judy Brittenham is a retired landscape architecture professor from the University of Arkansas. Alan Osner is a landscape architect, local.
He's on the Fayetteville Beautiful Commission, too.
He
Also a member of Arkansas American Society Landscape Architecture chapter.
Oh, cool.
Officer.
I thought we were going to get Amy to enter her yard.
Yeah.
She got sidetracked.
Yeah, I guess so.
So next week we will, this Friday we're going to send them kind of like a synopsis of what we're planning, and then we've mapped it out, and we're going to give them packets with the rubric in it, the addresses, and then we're grouping the addresses together for them to have quick trips. They'll start judging on the 20th and be done on the 25th. And we're making all the arrangements for them and keeping them organized and on track.
Sounds good. Sounds like we are there, almost.
Yeah. So we'll meet with them
Yeah.
on June 17th, just to give them a brief about what's going on and give them the packet of information. So if you guys wanted to come to that meeting, you're more than welcome to attend that.
Okay, about what time would that be?
We haven't set a time
I
yet.
haven't set
Okay.
time yet. We'll
Yeah, you can
send you all,
send us an
we'll include
email.
you in the invite.
All right.
We certainly did get more entries.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're also, with this same, sorry about that, but
Okay.
we're notifying, what's the magazine we're notifying?
Edible of
Edible.
Arkansas.
And we're hoping that they will include in their next edition our winners and maybe a little spread with our winners.
Oh, that's neat.
So we're going to try to include that, and then maybe that will roll into next year when we do another competition.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 5, the landscape manual.
Lee, you can go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. So the document's online if you'd like to see it. We talked about it at our special meeting a few
Mhm.
weeks ago. and we haven't had anybody call in and ask us about it, but it's out there if you want to
Okay.
reference it and
Okay.
discuss it with people. I think the most useful part about the landscape manual is the calculators that John made. We made links in the manual to the calculations so that people working on development review can use those calculators for their tree preservation numbers, yeah. And play with the numbers, you know, to see like if they,
Works.
you know, the give and take, yeah.
How do you access it? Where do you go?
So we wanted to make it as easy as possible, so when you go to the Fayetteville website, or even if you're in Google and you type in landscape manual, City of Fayetteville, it's the first thing that comes up on Google.
Okay.
Or it was a few days ago. Just keep checking to make sure. And if you go to the City of Fayetteville website, it's also, you know, in the search bar, you can type in landscape manual, it'll come up there. Or you can go to the urban forestry website and find a link there. So,
Okay.
lots of ways to find it. And it's a PDF, and then the links you can download as Excel spreadsheets so that they're working.
Okay.
And then you can copy and save them to your desktop.
Okay, all right. Item number 6, staff reports and updates. So, what do we know about the grant?
Well,
It looks
you
great.
guys have looked on College Avenue, you've noticed a lot of plantings, and then garland is planted as well, and seeded.
Where on
Uh,
College?
The 2 medians right out here, right before you get to, not Maple, Lafayette.
Okay,
The ones
I
right-
guess I
They're
must sleep by that time.
Yeah. You're the one hitting the trees. We've got those planted.
Okay.
And we've also planted garland. It's wrapped up, and we've got seeds. There's irrigation in both, and they're watering those. So we're going to work on closing out this project and the grant. Highway 265 is also planted. Lee and I did our final walkthrough today, and we've
Great.
submitted a punch list to Frank Sherums in the engineering department. Van Ash has been finalized. We submitted a final punch list to them after we did our walkthrough.
Where on 265?
From Joyce Avenue all the way to Springdale city limits on,
Ivy.
When did they
Ivy.
do this? Because the last time I went out, I didn't see any of this.
it's trees all the way in the median. I mean,
Yeah,
and they're
they're
really nice
Yeah,
too.
they're big.
They really look
No,
good.
the trees are big, the ones that y'all did last year.
They're,
Oh, yeah, they look nice.
yeah.
How about the ground, though? The ground looks a little scruffy.
Agreed.
Looks scruffy, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna do anything because that's one of those they mow.
Yeah, they mow that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
All
I think
right.
it's probably gonna remain kind of in that condition.
Okay.
Our spring escrow, we're still waiting to hear back from a gentleman that he had finished the last portion of that. And I'll introduce you guys. So this is Lee Porter, our new urban forester.
Hey.
I'll let her give you a little intro.
Yeah, so some of you I know, some of you I don't. I think we all met last time, and it's nice to meet you today. I guess to give you a little bit of background about myself, I studied landscape architecture here at the University of Arkansas with John. John and I were in school together. And then I've been working for the city for 2 years, but I've been in the sustainability department, which was really lovely. But I felt a pull to come over to urban forestry. Before working at the city, I was working at the botanical gardens, and I really loved working out there, working with plants, you know, digging, being in the dirt. But, you know, I just needed to keep moving on. But I'm really glad to be working with plants again in urban forestry, looking at trees, talking about plant names, and it feels like a good fit. So I'm glad to be here.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, Lee, I'm thrilled to have Lee. I think she wrote the landscape manual, as you guys know. She's doing a great job. We're really glad she fits in the office very well.
Thanks, John. This is
Good
week number
fit.
3.
I also asked Allison Quinlan Thurman here today. She's doing the project that you all inquired about last week. And she agreed to show up, and I thought it was an excellent opportunity for you all to see, you know, some parts of the development process and to meet somebody who is doing the development and what their intentions are and kind of what she's doing, so you guys know. She had the greedy goats there that you the little pop-up petting zoo with the greedy goats a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
And she, you know, that you all had inquired, I thought it was a good time. If you'd like to sit here and use your slideshow.
Hand me the mouse, and I bet we can.
I don't know if it'll still.
Does
Yeah,
it
go.
work? The response is okay. Pretty fun.
Thanks. Fun obsessed. So if you guys, I think, kind of the same thing. I've met some of you guys. I have not yet met some others. I'm a licensed architect and a licensed landscape architect here in town. I practice on my own. I have my own firm. It's just me, and I also am now getting into development. This is my first solo development project. I've worked as a designer for developers, but this is my first time taking on the whole thing. So it's a site that is down in South Fayetteville. This is East-South Street that runs along the southern edge of the site. This is where Huntsville dives into it, and that's Mill. The Happy Trails Motorcycle Club is right here. This is South Washington Avenue, so it's a really interesting little corner. It's a 1.32 acre site, and it's kind of this little funky triangular shape here. So there's an existing house, a 1936 house, that's got like a silver metal siding on it that's pretty distinctive if you've been down that way. And then there's a CMU triplex. It was built in 1968. The seller's mother visited while Connie from the Greedy Goats was there, and was telling stories about how her husband sent her and her children on vacation in 1968. And they had this beautiful, looking at historic photos, I think it was probably a 1908, 1910 frame house on the site. And he sent her on vacation, and he burned it down, and he built this.
No.
It's a one-story slab on grade.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps.
She's 91, and she's still really upset about it, as I would be.
Did they stay married?
I'm not sure.
That does sound like a deal breaker.
Yeah, really. A beautiful house, you did what?
Yeah. So it's pretty rough. They are both pretty rough. The foundations are terrible. I cannot believe there were people living in some of the parts of them. There's also a little garage back here, little two-car garage. From a tree standpoint, the best trees there's two oaks right here. They're right on the alley. They're actually technically in the alley right of way. They're gorgeous. They're in great shape. One of them is, I think, a 30-inch, and one of them is a 24-inch at chest height oak, and they're both just lovely. A lot of the trees on the site are in really rough shape. There's a larger maple down to the corner. It's listed as a 40-inch because it comes up, it's like 3 maple saplings that came up together, so they're kind of melded up, and then they split, and one of them has died, so there's kind of a dead, nasty, it's not in great shape. Some of the other kind of maples and oaks and hackberries along South Street have had some top die back, and still have ice storm damage and limbs hanging, and so there's a lot of cleanup to be done. There is a really nice pecan here that we've been working around. I think it's listed as a 36-inch pecan, and it's lovely. One of the tricks with this site is it's very hilly. It's got an average of an 11% grade, so it's about a 30-foot drop down each 300-foot side of the site. So we've got a lot of topography. When they built this house in 1968, they cut out the hillside, so it's got a really steep drop right there behind it. But so keeping trees and working with the grade is a really difficult balance between the two. It also has kind of the worst soil that you find in Fayetteville. 4 or 5 feet of expansive clays on top of really soft, loamy sands. It's down, Mill Creek is across the street behind the motorcycle shop. So it's not in the floodplain, but I think a lot of the trees probably are kind of bottom irrigated from groundwater. But if you dig a hole on the site, you have a pond because it's 4 or 5 feet of clay. So that's been a really tricky thing with foundation design and grading and all of that. That's one of the bigger challenges. So So this is some of the existing site. We've got, John came and walked through right after we closed on the property with me. I think we have almost every invasive in Fayetteville. We've got some mimosa, we've got some bamboo, we've got a lot of poison ivy, we've got honeysuckle, bush and vine forms. We've got all the good stuff. So these are some of those. We've got a lot of dieback on the trees along South Side. I'm not sure what happened to these couple. There are two ponds right against the foundations of the houses that were decorative.
It's bizarre. It really was. We were looking at it going, what in the world?
But they do have some really nice frogs. They sound great right at night. Mosquitoes, though, are kind of a problem. Retaining walls are moving around. It's got a lot of clay. And a lot of the site is paved or gravel driveways. It looks undeveloped, but a lot of the site is gravel, concrete, kind of mixed driveway. Most of these gravel driveways have, when we did geotech, an asphalt or a concrete driveway underneath them, that it was in bad shape, so they just graveled over it. So we've got a pretty high impervious rating right now.
Is that water in the second picture at the top?
No, that's one of the driveways. So that's South Street right there. This is the driveway that comes up into the middle of the site. It's right here.
Why is so much of this property vacant? Were there people living there? Is it abandoned?
This house was rented out to 3 young guys in their 20s.
How do you get to that house? Is it
This driveway. So this little corner piece is actually a City of Fayetteville right-of-way that we've got an application in requesting to vacate right now, since the road hasn't...
Right away for what?
I'm not sure.
I think they used it to store transportation
Right
department
next to the
stuff. Yeah.
It looks like a little parking lot right now, but so this driveway comes up there.
If I'm correct in where this is that rock? If you go up, it's rock. Okay.
Yeah.
I know where-
Rock Street right here.
There's a parking lot.
Yeah.
I have seen a couple. I come to work that way every day, and there have been a couple cars parked there.
Yep.
So it's
That red van is always there.
yeah. And then
that was one of the tenants.
Street is that mechanics
Mhm.
shop where the motorcycles are on the weekend.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I know where I am now.
Yep.
Now the house that's up the street, is that part of that?
The silver house is part of it. Our property
It has
line is
lots of
right against
windows
it.
in front.
Mhm.
That's it. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know if the lady I saw there, there
Mhm.
was someone living there. Are they still living there, or is it the
There
house
were-
next door?
Oh, the house next door has a lady with small kids.
Oh.
Victoria Carney lives
No,
next
this
door.
is an older lady.
An old,
I know what your house you're talking about.
Okay.
the boys' house?
This one's one big unit here and then 2 little studio apartments behind it. So there was, I think Mark's mom was living here.
Oh, okay.
And, prior to closing, so I think she was probably in this front unit.
Okay.
The 90-year-old lady?
Mhm.
Oh, bless her heart.
Mhm.
Couldn't she walk out
When
the
did you
front
buy
door?
this property?
We closed April 15th.
Cool.
So we went under contract in February, and we closed in April. And we're currently in the rezoning process. I think there are a couple, let me skip through these real quick. So these are from the Planning Commission meeting, just showing we're trying to rezone to downtown general right now. So kind of showing how mixed use the neighborhood was. So this was one of the first flour mills in Arkansas. It was burned down during the Civil War and then rebuilt. And that old building is actually one of our kind of architectural precedents, that the houses will be like a very simple, frame. We're pulling from that language. So that's the 1908 map. The 1913.
So it's going to be single family, but closely.
Little and dense. Yep. I would like to do some commercial, especially, some kind of live-work units that it's like little retail or office or something on the bottom and then, house above. We've gotten some pushback from that on the neighbors. They're not excited about any commercial whatsoever. They don't want coffee shop. They don't want commercial whatsoever.
Are the neighbors resident owners or resident tenants?
Resident owners. And so as we're going through the rezoning process, we're kind of leaving those couple lots that we'd like to do that on that are right here facing the mechanic shop. We're going to leave those to last phase and see, at the end, if people still feel really strongly that they don't want to see any commercial down here, we'll probably just do single family. if by that point most of it's in, they kind of know, all right, like this is good, you know, nothing crazy going on, then we'll hopefully tuck some, you know, some sort of mixed use down in there. It's a really nice neighborhood. I mean, I've had so many neighbors come and say hi. So many have introduced themselves. And I think one of the things that's tough in this neighborhood is it's not easy to walk and go grab coffee, walk and go grab milk. You know, there's a lot of nice little businesses along Huntsville, but there's not a ton of food to that side, except for Penguinettes. So I think kind of a little, you know, our idea is like a Blackboard grocery type little general store that has coffee and breakfast burritos and that kind of stuff. I think would be nice from a livability and urban standpoint, but
Isn't the resident population kind of older?
it is.
And that's probably,
It's actually
not-
younger residents though that have been saying that.
right, oh, the younger?
Yeah, the older residents have all been like, we would love to have stuff to walk to. That would
Yeah,
be
because
great.
Marvin's is a ways.
It's a ways.
It's a ways,
Yeah.
and so there isn't.
And it's all uphill.
Uphill. That's true, Marvin's a
Yeah.
ways, and the other thing, well, even what you call it, Evelyn Hills, that's
Yeah.
way out the
Yep.
way.
Maybe when the come and go goes in, they'll walk to the come and go.
Well, even we, when we had the Greedy Goats out, we got the after-school kids from the Yvonne Richardson Center, and I and a friend went and walked them down, you know, because the sidewalk's pretty narrow there.
Right.
And they were all talking about, because we were asking them, we were like, where do you go get snacks? Like, what's cool in the neighborhood? And there's a pop machine at the Happy Trails, and that's the
That's where
only
they go.
thing that they can go walk to, is they can go buy a pop at the pop
everything's
machine.
so far away, so
Yeah.
I thought it would be the older residents as opposed to the younger residents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who would say no because they want to maintain, they
Yeah.
don't want a lot of traffic, they
Yep.
don't want a lot of noise.
Yeah. Well, and it is, downtown general is still a residential zone, so it's still, you know, noise control. And kind of our tactic would be to not provide much parking so that it's unattractive to businesses that would have a lot of cars coming and going.
No McDonald's, no Burger King, no
Yeah,
Subway.
we don't have the site
Sidewalk.
space for
We
it.
will have to do that.
Yeah, of course. But by kind of being tactical about making it small enough, you know, making any commercial that we do small enough with little enough parking but good sidewalks and bike racks to make it appealing to businesses. You know, there's a lot of people who live in the neighborhood who would love to have an office or a yoga studio or something that, again, they could walk to work. But we're being cautious about that. We've gotten a lot of pushback, so leaving it to the end, and we'll figure it out before then.
Are you going to include some covenants when you develop them?
Probably not much. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. There is going to be a cottage court. So scrolling, so that's the full site. There was a filling station right here at the corner where the city owns that piece now, and you can still see that foundation. So we're right in the middle of the downtown general zone, and this is the downtown planning area, and then the Walker Park planning area. We're right at the corner of those two. So we're not actually in any of the master plan areas. We're right outside them. So we're asking to go downtown general, which is all this blue that you see. So we kind of make sense, but the hearing, it's going before the city council on the 23rd, so fingers crossed. Right now we're residential office and multifamily 24 units, so we could build a big apartment building, but we're trying to rezone so we can do little lots so that we don't do a big building. But so there is going to be a cottage court tucked in here. So there's going to be an alley that runs kind of in, angles following the street, and then out. And so this interior portion of the site is going to be, from a zoning standpoint, it's called a cottage court, where it's houses that are along a central green space. And so they kind of ring a central green space, and then the houses along the street will all have garages that are accessed off the alley. So we won't have any driveways or garage doors that you can see from the street. It'll just be a nice little row of small houses, kind of following the street frontage. And then
How small is small?
the smallest ones are going to be like 700 square feet. The biggest ones are like 1,400. Small. Yeah. Although some of them, we have like 3 and 4 bedroom houses in there. You know, we're kind of I'm trying to be intentional in, diverse neighborhoods are important to me in terms of size of units, which translates to small families versus, you know, older residents versus empty nesters versus people just starting out. And so by doing a really diverse size set of, some of them are, you know, 2 to 700 square foot ones are like 2 bedroom, 1 bath, up to, you know, 3 bedroom, 3 bath, but like little, so you can have little kids in them, gives, I think, a good variety of types of houses in the neighborhood, to get kind of mixed age. And there's also, some of the garages are going to have apartments above them, which means that the owners of those houses have to be owner occupants, because you can't rent your garage apartment if the house is a rental, so there'll be some owner occupant in the neighborhood. And then it also makes sure that there's some really affordable 500 square foot garage apartments above those.
Are they attached or not attached?
They're not attached. And they have kind of a separate entrance back to the alley and back facing the cottage court, so that they feel really separate. You could use them as a home office, but they're intentionally set up to feel like they should be a separate apartment.
But the homes?
Oh, the homes.
Yeah.
The homes are detached.
They're not like a townhouse?
No, we had some row house options really early on, but from a marketing and buyer standpoint, that really wasn't very successful. So the ones along the street are going to be, so there's going to be kind of a consistent street frontage all the way along South Street and Mill Street, and they're going to be detached, and I'm designing them as side yard houses. So the front door is actually on the south side in the middle of the long side of the house. So you come into the garden first and then into the house, and then with setbacks and use easements, each house has a really nice yard to the south side, so that it's kind of the sunny side of the house has a decent sized yard.
Okay.
And then air conditioning, you know, that kind of stuff tucked between the garage and the house. But so one thing working through is using the center of the cottage court as low impact development. We don't have really any infiltration because of that big thick clay cap, but we can do some kind of it's almost like designing a green roof. You can't infiltrate the water, but you can hold the water, which slows the impact down on the stormwater system, because you're kind of holding it and releasing it slowly. So designing this, instead of sidewalks, the cottage court, so the big corner portion, is going to have boardwalks. It's easier for us tree root wise. We're going to probably do helical piers for those, which are kind of a cool foundation system. It's like an 8-foot tall screw, and a bobcat comes and just like drills it into the ground, and then you attach on top of that. So it lets you keep the boardwalk up off the ground so that grade can consistently go underneath it, and you aren't, you know, increasing impervious surface. It is hard to find people to do stuff like that around here, so that's one reason the cottage court will not be our first phase.
Antonio.
Yeah. But so we're trying to figure out some cool stuff to do like that. So this is Carlton Landing, which is in Eufaula. And it's a cottage court that they have there, that they've used there. They have a single boardwalk. We're going to have 2 boardwalks with the LID in the middle, because ours is wider than theirs is. But it's kind of the same idea of using that as productive landscape. And then these are some of the first house designs. So I also was going to talk about one of the things that we're trying to do is do pier foundations. So it's a belled pier, so you get an auger and you auger down through the clay, and then you're bearing, so this is your big clay layer, and then you're bearing on the loam below the clay, and you keep as slender a pier as possible going through it, so that as the clay moves, it's not really shaking your foundations around much. But again, not something that's done super common here, so that's been...
water getting into that area?
So the whole envelope of the house is up off the ground, at least 18 inches, so you insulate the bottom. It's all treated, sill plates at the bottom, and then you insulate underneath it. You don't run a ton of plumbing in the floor of that, you don't have tons of water lines and stuff running in that, but it's all insulated, so your whole envelope is up off the ground, so your water can run underneath the house and it doesn't matter.
So does it have any impact on those piers?
No.
Like, they don't shift if the...
No, because you're bearing on, solid ground down below all of that. Mm-hmm. And so they're somewhat friction bearing, but they're mostly a bottom bearing system. And it also, especially as close as we're getting to, there's a pecan we're getting fairly close to with some of these, It's a lot easier on the root systems because you're only impacting that little 3-foot hole that you're digging instead of impacting, the full trench grade area.
Grading as much and cut and fill.
Yeah, you don't have to grade. You don't have to grade swales around a slab foundation, that kind of thing. So these are 3 of kind of what they're going to look like, and we're going to try and do all of these with the piers. And it's just, you dig you auger a 3-foot diameter hole, and you put some approved fill in the bottom and compact it, and then you put that form in there and pour it full of concrete, and then build on top of that. So it's pretty low tech, but it's still pretty unusual around these parts. And this is our pop-up petting zoo. We had Pedal Pops, whose office is just down the road, come and give free popsicles, and the after-school kids came, and then the greedy goats brought their baby goats. So we got some really good neighbor feedback by doing that. We got people some popsicles, and they'd stand around and talk to us about rezoning and neighborhoods and that kind of thing.
Do you know what price range these smaller houses will be?
We're not sure yet, honestly. They're going to be affordable just by virtue of, it's a 700 square foot house. There's not that much that goes into it. But the first 3, we're starting with those first 3 plans that we looked at are going to be right here along South Street. Some of the other challenges, and especially just as you talk to other developers in this neighborhood, there aren't great utilities. I mean, we don't have a sewer line in South Street. So we have to
inside the city limits?
Yeah, and we have to put in a sewer line. So that gets really expensive when you're building 700 square foot houses. So some of those challenges, and then the rezoning process, even when everything goes right, it takes forever. Our application went in April, and we'll get an answer if everything goes right. If we have a ton of positive public comment, it's possible it could be read 3 times at the June 23rd meeting, but it's more likely it's going to be read 3 times in 3 different meetings, which means, from April to the end of July, it's just kind of waiting. And so those are things that it's interesting seeing from the other side. It's very challenging.
Who's the alderman for that area?
Adela Gray, I think, is Ward 1. I think she's our...
And Justin Chenett?
Is Sarah Marsh our other alderman? I think Sarah Marsh and Adela Gray. Mm-hmm.
Well, Sarah might be the one that would move it on.
She and Alderman Petty are both at the CNU conference this week, so I think they'll be back next week for that meeting. So if you guys are, supportive and wouldn't mind emailing city councilors, I've been hitting up everybody, because apparently positive comment from the public does matter. But that's, it's interesting not seeing, seeing from the designer side, it feels very different, just to be honest, than experiencing it from the developer side.
Somebody's building single-family houses.
But I also,
more mega apartment
so I'm also on the planning commission, which I did because they built that big mega apartment complex in my backyard. Gather on Dixon. I stare at it from my back window.
From the post office?
But I also have to say, having gone through this process, I understand why people build giant apartment complexes. It's harder to do single family.
Well,
it's harder to do this stuff.
I think that stuff was already zoned.
It was.
And hers is currently zoned to where if she wanted to, she could do that.
I could have already started building a giant apartment complex.
Somebody ought to get the neighbors together over there and downzone some of that stuff, because this shouldn't have been zoned that dense.
Well, and the tricky thing too is, downtown general and neighborhood services are great zones for doing this kind of stuff, but all of the RSF 4 and even RSF 24, they have giant single-family lot minimums, so it's not really financially feasible to build single-family homes in neighborhoods like this when the land's this expensive on a 6,000 square foot lot. So a lot of the new zones are really good for, you still need dense single-family, to make it work with land prices like this. But it's hard to get zoned those if you're not already those.
I really wish you'd think about putting some covenants in the neighborhood. For one thing, city code still allows storage sheds in a front yard, which I've experienced in a neighborhood, and I think it's just atrocious. Another problem that I see growing in residential neighborhoods throughout town, in fact across the country, is people who are using houses as vacation rentals through Airbnb. There's 1 or 2 on that piece of Huntsville that runs through there.
Mhm.
And nationwide, there's a lot of neighbors that are very upset. There was an article about the city of New Orleans where people were just, up to their eyeballs with putting up with a house next door that had frat parties on the weekends, and there's Fayetteville code right now says in a single-family neighborhood you can rent by the month or by the week, but we're renting them by the day, and nobody is challenging that from the city. And I think it's something the city's going to have to address. So if you could put something in your covenants
Mhm.
that these properties will not be rented by the day,
Mhm.
but must be rented a minimum by the month.
Mhm.
Please think about that, just to keep the integrity and your purpose
Mhm.
on what you're trying to do down there. And you can't make it be owner-occupied, but there are, maybe perhaps it's rare, but I remain hopeful, there are good tenants.
I think there are great tenants, and I think there need to be rental properties, because not everybody needs or is able to be a homeowner.
Or wants to live in an apartment.
Or wants to live in an apartment. I think rental single-family homes are really important. It's interesting hearing kind of the other side of the Airbnb standpoint, because from a financial standpoint, it's always it's kind of an element of diversity that you can add in to, I actually hear people intentionally have one of their units be intended for that. The tax standpoint, the city, though, is pretty on top of, in terms of if you're renting a house by the day for more than 30, if more than 30 nights have been rented, not as a month, you have to pay an 11%, I think it is, hospitality tax. There's a sales tax and a hospitality tax.
So essentially the hotel motel tax.
Yeah,
is
so
included.
you're paying the same taxes as the chancellor.
City code will allow for a one-night rental?
Mm-hmm. City code allows for it, but when
Well,
you go
maybe I
in,
just looked at RSF 4.
at least, so I used to own an Airbnb in Wilson Park. There were never any parties. I have to say, though, the neighbors were all fine with it, because we talked to them, because we knew there were some concerns kind of in the news about that. And it was great from our standpoint. It was only ever people in the weekends. It was mostly football games, and it was mostly like older couples, and it was. But so you have to pay a hospitality tax, and it's a really good sales tax base for the city, especially in an area that you can't, like a fully residential neighborhood that you really can't have any commercial areas.
Like sales tax on it?
Mm-hmm. Part of the hospitality tax is sales tax.
So would your property be used for that?
I'm not sure.
Well, I've thought about doing it with some of the rent houses I have, mostly because I think maybe 1 or 2 days of a problem tenant wouldn't be nearly as bad as 1 or 2 months of a problem tenant. But I care so much about the neighborhood that I don't want to do that to them.
So, there any other issues, comments about the rezoning?
When is your date?
June 23rd.
I'm really glad to see that, well, I guess I can't see it here, but you mentioned it earlier, that you're going to be treating that alleyway like a frontage.
Mm-hmm.
I live down south of there.
It looked close.
Yeah, and sometimes I use that alleyway to walk home.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet back there.
It is.
The houses that are there now, all the way up to Rock Street,
Mm-hmm.
I think up to Rock, are, not the best, but I think it would be a really, really cute scene back there to have houses facing the alley.
And the pedestrian idea is kind of that's the best walk to the square from any of these properties.
It really
So
is.
it's really intentional that all of these houses along the street, it's an easy walk to the alley, and then up through the cottage courts, this really nice landscaped kind of community feel, and then up that alley into Rock Street.
How does the city treat it? I guess I should maybe know that because I work for the city. But are they going to treat that like a street, like you need to put sidewalks on it, or is it a private?
No, and I can only front to it because it's a cottage court, and so each house
Oh,
doesn't need
okay.
street frontage, because you can't legally use an alley as street frontage.
Cool.
Although that's something I've heard a lot of people talk about would be really great for a lot of these infill projects, because so many of these lots are, these are 350 feet deep lots, which is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could use, alleys as street frontage, yeah.
John, you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
And I hope you guys, go ahead.
One thing, if I may, you're talking about the soil, where you're gonna use the
Piers.
piers. I think that's wonderful. There shouldn't be any houses built on concrete, on red dirt in our city, you know. It eliminates ever growing anything on it, the future use of an area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we're really thinking farther ahead, we're thinking, what will they take all these buildings out and make it a park someday? And will it then still have absorbent soil and chance to grow food or wildflowers or healthy trees? So that's a good thing you're doing there.
But it's funny too, like, my only thing as the developer coming to speak to you guys is every time you talk to people doing these projects trying to do something unusual like that, is it makes such sense. It makes complete sense. You're not hauling off 4 feet of the site and hauling it somewhere else and dumping it. You're not bringing in a bunch of, like, the way that we do foundations here doesn't make any sense at all from a soil standpoint. It's so hard to do anything that's not the way that we normally do things. People think you're nuts. So I think it's, as we find all these different ways that we can do, I think, better ways of building with Fayetteville's climate and its soil and its topography and all of those things, I think that's the barrier to keep in mind, that as people do these things, man, it's tough. So.
This pier thing, that's similar to like pole structure, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible to do pole structures in Fayetteville?
It would be. You could do driven piers. The equipment is harder to come by because it's kind of a specialized equipment. So if you're someplace like New Orleans, where it's all driven piers all the time, everybody has that equipment and it's no big deal because everybody knows how to do it. But so the reason I'm doing the poured concrete is it can be done with equipment that people have, even though it's not what we typically use it for. So you could do driven piles. The augering a larger hole so that you also have some standoff from the pier, from the clay, provides a little bit of extra kind of buffer too, which is a little bit of a benefit.
So on the piers over west of there, a lot of houses were built on concrete piers, long, like,
yeah, grade
long
beams
this,
and
and the people designing those did not understand that we have water running underground all across
everywhere.
And so they put them so they're this way, and each one would try to block the water and it would pour out.
Yeah.
And they'd say, if water's out in the street, why, when I drill, put in my piers, do we get it fills up with water by the next morning after we, you gotta understand that, it's a spring in every place you look, and there's a lot of them dried up, buried, destroyed. You wouldn't need Beaver Lake if all those springs had been protected all these years.
And we have an active spring on the site that we're going to be daylighting and kind of we're bringing it down in a yard in a cool way. But the whole city, I mean, it's limestone, it's a karst landscape with a big clay layer. We've got water everywhere. But there's a lot of places like this geologically, so there's a lot of building traditions, I think, that we can pull from that make sense and are, easy and sensible. So.
Well, the word karst you used, I wish we could make everybody who's going to have any influence in the city understand what it is. And there's a fault going across beneath the city that people don't know until they start building.
The multifamily that was to the northeast of that, is it currently developed as multifamily?
No, it's all single-family homes in that neighborhood right now.
That I'm aware of. Why did it end up being zoned multifamily?
It's in a dense residential planning neighborhood, and my personal 2 cents is that I'm pro the larger, denser zones, but they don't allow for dense single-family, which I think is the minimum lot sizes are way too big.
Shall we move on to the next item, the Drake and Gregg update?
Yeah, I just wanted to share with you, they got their violation and there's a stop work order, that was May 2nd, and then they did apply for a grading permit since then. I don't believe they've gotten a grading permit. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I don't believe they've gotten it yet. But they haven't submitted like a formal development. Do you guys remember the great,
Yeah,
where I'm
the-
talking about Drake, and they removed all that
All the
underbrush?
trees.
Mm-hmm. So this was a copy of that. And I think that's all I have for staff on this,
Okay.
unless you guys have any more questions.
Does anybody have any topics they want to bring up? We have a few minutes left.
There's one over there to the right, too, that's multifamily.
Oh, the whole, it's all, we're multifamily right now. So this is all zoned residential multifamily. It's all RMF 24
But it's built as single-family houses.
right now. This is all multifamily right here.
Built as multifamily.
Built as multifamily.
There's a few of them that are actually multifamily up there.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, it's
Where is that that's built as multifamily?
It's right down Mountain. It's at the end of Mountain.
mhm.
Did the mill used to sit where the motorcycle shop is now?
Mhm.
Okay.
And there was a gas
I
station
didn't know
across from
that.
that.
Mhm.
It's a great
I think that's
area.
an empty gas station.
It's so close to the square.
There's a lot of historical.
It is uphill to the square.
It is
though.
uphill.
You're talking about people
Yeah.
walking and elderly residents, I thought.
Okay. Well, Aubrey, you have something you want to
Just
discuss?
for the people who are here,
Oh,
have a
yeah.
slideshow.
I started looking at this, and these are
Please
beautiful
pass
photos.
these.
Everybody should look at them. We've been hogging them over here.
And they are available on, my Facebook site, Aubrey Shepherd, and, various, videos on the, government channel, or on the city, public access. But anyway, it's 12 species of milkweed that feed caterpillars of monarchs inside Fayetteville, Arkansas. Learn to recognize these, maybe you'll plant some. Get seeds from
I did make it to the, Sue, I did make it, yes, and they were handing out,
Oh, they're beautiful.
the milkweed,
Oh, good.
little, 6-inch plantings and then an accompanying larger flowering something that, also attracted other, butterflies or bees or whatever that kind of helped out the milkweed. So I put them
It
in.
was what, 2 Saturdays ago, the city
Yeah,
parks had raised
yeah.
all these three
Yeah,
species?
yeah, with Parks and Recreation. I did make it, yes. Thank you.
Good.
Let's see, yes, you have something.
Just, our next presenter, we're gonna have.
Oh, yeah, I was about to, thank you for reminding me, 'cause I had forgotten. Next month is the landscape
The landscape,
competition,
so
so we don't have any. So, according to the minutes, are you going to do
I'll do
August?
August. Hopefully
Okay.
my head will be above water.
Okay, and so that leaves September, October, November, and December. So, since we're starting again, I'll take September. I feel bad if I don't stick myself.
You're very
in-
organized with this.
I got to put it in the little box. So I'm gonna do it, so I'll do September. Aubrey, would you like to do October, the invasive?
Sure.
Or the invasive or a
Invasive.
native species?
Or something else.
Yes, native or invasive. And I'll do September, so we'll have August, September, and October done.
I'm gonna do
We're doing
Exodium.
car tours.
Okay, all right.
You're gonna do
How do
what?
you spell that?
Oh, I thought I'd do bald cypress and pond cypress.
Oh, okay, that's gonna be
Okay.
the August.
That's August. And I'll do September, and I have to find something I don't know anything about, which is a whole lot, but something that appeals to me. So, I'll have it by September, though.
One last thing, y'all know where the 112 drive-in is?
Mhm.
Okay, that's on Prairie. And right now, on the south side of the drive-in, you get out there very quickly before they start mowing, because last year, they mowed it as soon as it quit flooding through that whole watershed out there. And it's just, you could see, I mean, I've got pictures online and so forth, but it doesn't do it justice. It's hard to show a mass of something, but there must be thousands of Asclepias hortella, one of the
Wow.
photos in that group, growing there. There's also some other species, but some species haven't even come up yet.
Oh, wow.
But anyhow,
Ooh, pretty.
when it gets mowed down, they're gone for a whole year.
Oh.
And the monarchs won't get to use them once they're mowed down.
Does the drive-in own that property? Is
I
it on
don't
the
know.
sheriff?
I want to find out. I keep forgetting to check the records and see who owns it. It'd be nice to know. Because all they gotta do is, they may be planning to develop it someday, but every year that you can keep prairie healthy until you develop it, then you're saving monarchs and many other species. So,
So we can just go out there and grab them up?
I think all we can do is admire them.
We are being recorded.
If they aren't mowed, then sometime in September, they'll all be in seed.
And then you can
mode.
get some seed.
July, and that's when you get the seed.
So July.
But don't dig them up,
No.
because they'll come
They
back.
have such huge taproots, it's a tremendous job to try to dig one
Oh,
out.
so just wait till it's seed.
Yeah.
Well, if they mow them, they won't seed.
No, that's the reason I'm hoping that we can get enough people to see it and be able to testify that this is a wonderful place. It's got so many
Gotcha.
native species out there, but this just happens to be the one that people are most concerned about, the monarch out there.
I wonder if offering some sort of partnership with, I feel like a lot of times those properties get mowed because people don't want their neighbors to feel like they're not taking care of it. And so even just a simple sign that says something like native habitat in conjunction with, the urban forestry, whatever it is, to kind of tell people it's intentional that we're not mowing this, we're not just, being bad neighbors.
Well, I don't think there's ever been a rule that undeveloped area like that had to be mowed. And there would be no reason to complain about it.
Mhm.
And so, if I were somebody like a lot of folks with a lot of money, I would own thousands of acres of prairie around Fayetteville. And I would allow somebody to have one house on, 10 acres or something, just to help get some money out of it, but it's
I think
too
people
precious.
think they're being bad citizens, though, if they don't
If
keep
they
their
don't-
property
they don't-
neat and
Mhm.
tidy.
No,
Well,
but that's not.
The way we can find out who
Sure.
owns it and ask them about, are they cutting it because they just don't want it to look horrible? But if they knew that this is a butterfly habitat,
Mhm.
would they
We
just
can
trim
ask.
the edges?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
ask.
Can you check in property tax records? maybe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Offer them a sign for the fence post that
We
says
have
butterfly
stacks of
habitat.
native habitat
Yeah.
signs in our office.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And we're a habitat community, the only one in the state, Fayetteville.
Yeah.
And we've had all these rules.
I'm
You
sure
don't
if we-
have to mow if you put in native plants in your yard.
If we proposed it from a financial standpoint, that's gonna probably sell quicker than any
Mhm.
other standpoint.
That's a-
Right. You don't have to pay anybody to cut this down, you
Mm-mm.
just let it grow.
Yep.
But I'm sure they think they're being good neighbors and trying to, take good care of it.
Keep it
So
clean
we
and
can
neat,
just
yeah.
show a different way to take care of it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Brush hogging it once a year is good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
After the.
After seeded.
After-
Seeded.
After the hill frost.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That would keep the bush honeysuckles down, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, are there any other issues? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned.
Thank
Thank you all.